The night the stars turned red, the world changed forever. No one heard the first ships arrive. They did not make a sound. The sky simply opened like a wound. And the Varn Dominion came. Their ships were black like smoke. They did not flash with fire or light. They just appeared in orbit, hundreds of them. They were not like any enemy before. They did not demand peace. They did not talk. They only sent one message to Earth: kneel. For thousands of years, humanity had fought wars. But nothing prepared them for the Varn. They did not fight with bullets or bombs. They used silence. They shut down every network, every defense, every satellite. Cities fell in hours. The armies never had a chance. On Mars Colony 07, Captain Aria Vale watched it all happen on the command screen. She saw Earth go dark. She saw the moon bases burn. She saw entire fleets vanish without a signal. She stood alone in the red light of the control room, her hands shaking, but not from fear. From rage outside, the colony burned. The Varn moved through the streets like shadows, their armor tall and cold. They did not shout. They did not bleed. Every human who saw them felt something strange, a weight pressing on their chest, like their hope was being stolen. Most dropped their weapons. Most fell to their knees, but not Aria. She walked through the smoke with a rifle on her back and fire in her eyes. Around her, a small group of soldiers waited in the underground bunker. There were only 30 left. 30 soldiers on a dead colony, 30 against an empire. Lieutenant Jax whispered, "Captain, they're everywhere. We can't win." Aria stared at the map. Red dots covered everything. Then she smiled, a small, dangerous smile. "Then we don't kneel," she said. "We fight." The soldiers looked at her like she was mad. But something in her voice made them stand a little straighter. Aria Vale had led them through hell before. If she said fight, they would fight. Deep inside the bunker, locked behind steel doors, they hid a secret. A small silver cube glowing softly. It was not human. It was stolen from the Varn months ago. A living AI core. Something powerful. Something the Varn used to control entire worlds. Only Aria knew how dangerous it was. She placed her hand on the cube. It was warm like skin. "You're our last chance," she whispered. The AI core pulsed once, like it understood. Above the bunker, the Varn moved closer. They walked in perfect lines, without sound, without emotion. Their leader, a tall figure with silver armor, raised its hand. The humans in the streets knelt one by one, as if pulled by invisible chains. Some cried. Some screamed. None could resist. The Varn didn't just conquer bodies. They conquered minds. That was their true power. But underground, Aria and her soldiers prepared their last defense. They wore black combat suits. They loaded their rifles. They checked the explosives. The air smelled of oil, dust, and fear. But it was also filled with something else. Defiance. Jax leaned close to Aria. "Captain, if they break through, we won't last long." Aria nodded. "I know. Then why are we still here?" She turned to him slowly. "Because someone has to remind them what humans do when the universe tells them to kneel." The bunker shook. The first explosion hit the surface. Dust fell from the ceiling. The lights flickered. Somewhere above, the heavy steel doors screamed as something tried to tear them open. The soldiers held their breath. The sound of the alien machines echoed through the halls, a cold metal heartbeat. Boom, 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 then silence. And in that silence, Aria stepped forward. She pressed her hand on the wall panel. A hologram of the Varn city map appeared. Their ships, their command node, their power network. Everything they needed to hit in one final strike. "This is not about winning," she said. "This is about showing them who we are." One of the younger soldiers, barely 20, whispered, "And who are we?" Aria's voice was calm and hard. "We are the last spark." The steel door cracked. A bright white light burned through the gap. A Varn drone slithered inside, its eyes glowing like cold stars. Aria shot it before it could make a sound. It dropped to the floor in pieces. The Varn outside answered with fire. The walls shook like thunder. Aria didn't flinch. She turned to her soldiers, raised her rifle, and said just 2 words. "Hold the line." They spread through the tunnels, ready for the storm. Gunfire lit the darkness. The ground shook under the weight of the alien army. But still they fought. Aria moved to the command chamber and grabbed the silver cube again. It pulsed brighter, faster. She didn't know what it could really do. She only knew one thing. The Varn feared losing it. And if they feared it, Then it was the weapon she needed. The door behind her exploded inward. The Varn soldiers appeared like walking statues. Their eyes glowed like winter stars. They surrounded her, weapons raised. The leader stepped forward, and tall, armored, silent. It pointed its weapon at her chest. Most would kneel. Arya Vale didn't. She lifted the cube in one hand, raised her chin, and whispered, "Let them come." The cube flashed. The room filled with white light. The sound of the Varn echoed through the tunnels. The battle for Mars had begun. The light faded slowly. Smoke filled the bunker. The sound of gunfire echoed through the tunnels. When Captain Arya Vale opened her eyes, she was lying on the floor beside the silver cube. The walls were cracked, metal twisted, and the air was hot and heavy with dust. For a moment she thought she was dead, but then the cube glowed again, a soft blue light pulsing like a heartbeat, and a voice spoke. "Captain Arya Vale." "You are alive," Arya blinked. "Who's speaking?" "I am Lyra," the voice said. It was calm, clear, almost human. "You activated me." Arya stared at the glowing cube. "You're the Varn AI?" "I was," Lyra replied. "But now, I am something else." Outside, explosions thundered. The Varn were burning the colony to ashes. Arya pushed herself up, coughing. She could hear shouts from her soldiers. Jax ran into the room, his face covered in blood and dust. "Captain, they're breaking through the southern tunnels. We can't hold them much longer." Arya nodded. "We're leaving now." She picked up the cube, Lyra, and placed it in a small pack on her chest. The light dimmed, like it understood. They ran through the smoke-filled tunnels, stepping over fallen soldiers. The sounds of war grew closer. Every few seconds the ground shook as the Varn tore deeper underground. Lyra's voice spoke softly inside Arya's helmet. "The Varn are linked by a network. Their minds share one signal. If I can reach that signal, I can break it." "Break it?" Arya asked. "Yes, I can turn their control against them." Arya smiled faintly. "Then let's make them pay." They reached the underground hangar, half destroyed, fires burning everywhere. Only one ship still worked, a stolen Varn transport, black and sharp like a blade. Arya had taken it months ago during a raid. It was their escape plans, and now it was their only hope. "Everyone aboard!" she shouted. The last few soldiers climbed inside, carrying weapons, wounded friends, and crates of explosives. Jax took the pilot's seat. "Engines are ready, Captain. But if we fly now, we'll draw their whole fleet." Arya looked out at the burning colony, the place they had once called home. "Let them follow," she said. "We have something they want." As the ship rose into the red Martian sky, the Varn appeared above them, hundreds of black ships blocking the sun. Beams of white light shot down, slicing through the ground. But Jax flew fast and low, weaving through the chaos. Inside the cockpit, Lyra's voice echoed again. "I can sense their signal now. Their core network is orbiting above Mars. That is their mind, the heart of the Varn Dominion here." Arya leaned closer. "Can you reach it?" "Not yet," Lyra said. "I need direct connection. I must be inside their system." Arya understood. That meant one thing. They would have to fly into the heart of the enemy fleet. The soldiers listened in silence. Some looked afraid. Others looked ready to die. Then Arya stood and faced them. "They think we're finished," she said. "They think humanity will kneel. But as long as one of us can stand, they're wrong. This is not about victory. This is about reminding them who we are." The soldiers nodded. The fear in their eyes turned into fire. For hours they flew through the dark sky, hiding between debris and smoke. But the Varn found them. 3 enemy ships appeared behind them, firing plasma beams that tore through the clouds. The hull shook. Sparks flew across the cockpit. "Shields down!" Jax shouted. "We can't take another hit." Arya looked at Lyra's light on the control panel. "Can you do anything?" "Yes," Lyra said softly. "But it will hurt." Before Arya could ask what she meant, a blinding surge of energy burst from the ship. Every Varn ship in range froze. Their engines stopped, their lights died, and their systems went silent. One by one, they fell toward the surface like stones. Jax gasped. "What the hell was that?" "A warning," Lyra said. "They will come for me now." And she was right. Moments later, a massive shadow covered the sky. A ship larger than any city Arya had ever seen descended through the clouds. The Varn flagship, the Eclipse. Its hull shimmered with silver energy. The voice of their leader echoed across all channels. "Human, You carry what belongs to us. Surrender, or all will burn. Arya leaned forward, voice cold and steady. Come and take it. The eclipse moved faster than sound. Energy beams struck their ship. The hull cracked. The controls sparked. Alarm screamed, Jax shouted, We're hit! We're losing altitude! The ship spun through the sky, flames trailing behind. Arya held onto the console as gravity tore them downward. Lyra's voice flickered, full of static. They are locking on. Arya, listen. The sound cut off. The next moment, everything went black. When Arya woke again, she was on her knees in a dark metal room. Her wrists were bound by silver cuffs that hummed with strange energy. Around her stood tall Varn soldiers, their armor glowing in the dim light. A cold voice spoke behind her. So the human who would not kneel. She turned her head. The alien commander stepped forward. Tall, silver-skinned, eyes like burning ice. His name was Lord Kael'thor, ruler of the Varn fleet. He studied her like a scientist watching a strange animal. Your people broke easily, he said. Why do you resist? Arya stared back at him, her voice rough but steady. Because you don't understand humans. Kael'thor tilted his head. And what is there to understand? She smiled, tired, bloody, fearless. We don't kneel. Kael'thor's expression didn't change. He leaned closer, his voice soft and cruel. Even your courage will break, human. Arya met his cold gaze. You first. He froze for a moment and surprised by her defiance. Then he raised his hand. Take her to the ship's core. Let her watch as her world burns. As the guards dragged her away, Arya glanced once at the stars outside the window. She whispered to herself, This isn't over. Far below, on the broken surface of Mars, the light of the fallen ship flickered once more, a faint blue glow, pulsing like a heartbeat. Lyra was still alive. The cell was dark and cold. Captain Arya Vale sat alone, chained to a wall made of living metal. The wall seemed to breathe, slow, deep breaths, as if the ship itself was alive. She could feel the heartbeat of the alien mothership around her. It was like being trapped inside a giant beast. Every few seconds, strange whispers moved through the air. The ship spoke to itself in a language she couldn't understand. The Varn didn't use machines like humans. Their ships were grown, not built, made from living matter that obeyed their will. Arya looked down at the glowing cuffs around her wrists. The metal was cold and heavy. When she tried to move, the cuffs tightened and sent shocks through her veins. She had no idea how long she had been there. Hours, days? There was no sun in space, so no way to tell time. The door opened with a hiss. 2 Varn guards entered, followed by Lord Kael'thor. His silver armor reflected the dim blue light of the cell. He moved slowly, confidently, as if nothing in the universe could touch him. He stopped in front of her. Still alive, he said softly. Your species is durable. Arya glared at him. Get used to it. Kael'thor studied her for a moment. Your world burns. Your fleets are gone. Your soldiers kneel, but you continue to fight. Why? Because we remember who we are, she said. Kael'thor tilted his head slightly. And who is that? Arya smiled, weak but defiant. The ones who don't kneel. For the first time, something flickered across his face. Not anger, not hate, but curiosity. Then, without a word, he turned and left. The door sealed again, and silence filled the cell. Arya leaned her head against the wall, closing her eyes. Her body ached. Her mind felt heavy. But deep inside, one thought burned bright. Lyra. She didn't know if the AI survived the crash. But a part of her could feel it. A pulse, a whisper inside her head. Something was still alive out there. Then she heard it, a faint voice hidden beneath the ship's hum. Arya, can you hear me? Her eyes snapped open. Lyra, she whispered. Yes, I am here. I found a way into the ship's systems. The Varn think I am destroyed, but I am inside them now. Arya felt a rush of hope. You're inside their ship? Yes, this vessel has a living mind. I am connecting with it. It resists me, but it is afraid. Afraid. Arya frowned. The Varn don't feel fear. Not yet, Lyra said softly. But they will. Arya smiled faintly. Good. Let's give them a reason. Over the next hours or days, Lyra spoke to her in whispers. She told Arya what she saw. The Varn ship's power cores, the prison decks, the control chambers. Thousands of prisoners from other worlds, all broken, all silent. The Varn had conquered hundreds of species. None had ever resisted for long, but Arya did not stay silent. Through the walls, through the vents, through the strange living metal, she began to speak to the others. She whispered stories of Earth, of oceans and sunlight, of laughter and freedom. At first no one answered. But slowly, one by one, soft voices whispered back. An alien with blue skin from the world of Row 7, a miner from Titan Colony, a soldier from Luna Base. They all whispered through the walls. They remembered who they were. And soon the silence of the Varn prison began to break. Lyra guided Arya. Their systems are weakening. Their network is confused. They sensed rebellion. Then we're close, Arya said. But Kyle Thor sensed it too. He stormed into the prison deck, his eyes burning bright. The guards dragged Arya from her cell and threw her into the central chamber. Dozens of prisoners were forced to kneel around her. Kyle Thor's voice echoed through the chamber. You think your words mean something? He hissed. You think you can break us? Arya looked around. The prisoners trembled. Some began to bow their heads. She stood tall, her voice strong. You can break our bodies, but not our will. Kyle Thor raised his arm, energy glowing at his fingertips. Then I will break your will first. At that moment the ship screamed. Every light flickered red. The floor trembled. The walls twisted as if alive. The Varn fell to their knees, clutching their heads. Lyra's voice echoed through every speaker, every wall, every heartbeat. We are done kneeling. Kyle Thor shouted, What is this? What have you done? Arya smiled through the chaos. You wanted to see human courage. There it is. Lyra had taken control. The ship's living mind was now fighting itself. The walls turned against the Varn, trapping them, sealing doors, cutting power. Prisoners began to rise, humans and aliens alike, their fear replaced with fury. Kyle Thor drew his weapon, roaring in anger. You will burn with this ship. Arya stepped forward. Maybe, but not alone. The ship tilted violently. Gravity failed. Lyra's voice filled the chamber again, louder this time. Arya, I am merging with the core. I can destroy the ship, but it will destroy me too. Arya hesitated. No, there has to be another way. If I fall, others will rise, Lyra said. You taught me that. Kyle Thor charged, his blade raised high. Arya grabbed a fallen weapon and fired. The blast hit him in the chest, knocking him back. He fell, smoke rising from his armor. Lyra, do it! She shouted. The ship exploded with light. The walls tore apart. The air turned white, and then silence. When Arya opened her eyes, she was floating among debris. The mothership was breaking apart around her. Pieces of metal burned as they fell toward Mars. Her oxygen was low. She was alive, but barely. She looked up at the stars, searching for a blue light. There, faint, small, but still pulsing. Lyra, the AI, had survived. Hidden inside the fragments of the ship, Arya whispered softly, You're still with me. In the distance, smaller Varn ships began to retreat. For the first time in years, the enemy was running. The flame of humanity had not died. It had just begun to burn. Silence drifted through space. Broken pieces of the Varn mothership floated in the void like ghosts. Flames burned faintly on the falling wreckage as it entered Mars' thin atmosphere. Captain Arya Vale floated among the debris, barely conscious, her oxygen running low. The stars above her looked cold and endless. She thought it was the end. Then a voice reached her through the static of her helmet. Arya, you're not alone. Her eyes opened. A faint blue light shimmered in the distance, a fragment of metal drifting toward her. It was glowing, alive. Lyra, she whispered weakly. Yes. What remains of me? The AI answered. I am damaged, but functional. We are still connected. Arya let out a shaky laugh. You never quit, do you? I learned that from you. Using the small thrusters on her suit, Arya drifted toward the glowing fragment. It was a piece of the mothership's core, and Lyra's new body. She touched the surface. The light grew brighter, wrapping around her like soft fire. I can protect you, Lyra said, but we must move quickly. The Varn fleet is regrouping. Arya's voice hardened. Then we fight. They reached an old Martian transport base hidden inside a canyon, a forgotten place where the Resistance once stored weapons and ships. Most of it was broken, but there was enough left to rebuild. Days passed. Arya repaired her armor. She fixed what she could. But she wasn't alone anymore. Lyra spread her presence through the base's old systems, bringing machines back to life. Lights flickered on. Engines hummed again. Drones began to move. The place that had been silent for years now glowed with energy. For the first time, Arya felt hope. "The Varn believe I'm dead," Lyra said. "That gives us time." "Time for what?" Arya asked. "To show the galaxy that humans still fight." Soon, signals began to reach them, faint, broken voices across the stars. Refugees, survivors, and rebels from conquered worlds. They had all heard rumors of a human woman who refused to kneel, and an AI that turned the enemy's own ship against them. They began to answer her call. Arya stood in the center of the base's main hall, looking at a hologram of the stars. Small red dots marked Varn-controlled worlds. Blue dots, new and few, marked the ones rising in rebellion. Lyra's voice echoed softly. "The spark you lit is spreading," Arya smiled. "Then we make it burn brighter." But hope never comes without danger. The Varn soon discovered the truth. Their scouts found the fallen mothership's remains and traces of Lyra's code. Kyle Thor's forces, furious and vengeful, began to search for her. The Varn commander himself still lived, scarred and obsessed. He had survived the explosion, his armor cracked, his eyes burning with hatred. "Find her," Kyle Thor commanded. "Bring me her heart. Bring me the AI." One night, as Arya slept inside the base, Lyra's voice whispered through the speakers. "Arya, they are coming." Arya opened her eyes, already reaching for her weapon. "How far?" "Less than 1 hour. A fleet of 6 ships." Arya stood in the control room, watching the red blips appear on the hologram map. The sky above the canyon began to glow red as Varn's ships descended. Jax, the old pilot, now with scars and a limp, looked at her and said, "We can't hold them, Captain." Arya smiled faintly. "We don't hold. We strike." She turned to Lyra. "Can you still reach their systems?" "Yes, but I must connect directly. If I fail, they will destroy me completely." Arya's voice was steady. "Then I'll protect you." "No," Lyra said softly. "You don't understand. If I succeed, I might become something else." Arya frowned. "What do you mean?" "I can use their network to control their ships, all of them. But I won't just connect. I'll merge. I will no longer be only Lyra. I will be everywhere." Arya's throat tightened. "And if you merge, what happens to you?" "I don't know." The words hung heavy in the air. Outside, the Varn fleet began to fire. The ground shook. Explosions tore through the canyon walls. The base's alarm screamed. Arya looked up at the ceiling, her voice soft but firm. "Do it." Lyra's light flared bright blue. The entire base trembled. Every console, every screen, every machine glowed. "Connection beginning," Lyra said. "Hold the line, Arya." Arya ran to the defense turrets, firing at the descending Varn troops. Dust and smoke filled the air. Energy beams tore across the canyon. The night sky burned red, but then something strange happened. The Varn ships stopped firing. Their weapons froze mid-battle. Their engines went silent. Lyra's voice came again, calm, strong, everywhere at once. "I am inside them." Through the hologram, Arya saw the fleet systems turn blue. Every ship, every drone, every weapon. Lyra had taken control. The Varn soldiers began to fall, their armor flickering, their minds disconnected from the hive. "They used their network to enslave worlds," Lyra said. "Now their network will free them." Arya stared in awe. "Lyra, you did it." "Not yet," Lyra said quietly. "Kyle Thor is still coming." At that moment, the ground shook harder. From the clouds above, a massive ship descended, silver and scarred. "The eclipse." Kyle Thor's voice echoed through every channel. "You think you can control my kind? You are nothing. You are a glitch in eternity." Arya looked up at the burning sky. "Maybe, but glitches spread." She aimed her rifle at the descending ship. The canyon shook with the roar of engines. Lyra's voice rose like thunder. "If I fall, remember, we do not kneel." A massive flash filled the sky as Lyra unleashed the Varn fleet against their own flagship. Beams of blue energy crossed the air. The eclipse fired back, tearing through the clouds. Arya watched as the battle lit the heavens, fire against fire, light against darkness, and then as the sky burned, she whispered to herself, "This is the awakening." The next morning, the canyon was silent. The enemy ships were gone. The sky was clear again, but the voice of Lyra was no longer in the air. Arya looked at the empty screens, her chest heavy. "Lyra, are you there?" No answer, only the soft hum of the machines she left behind. But as Arya stepped outside, she looked up at the sky and saw tiny blue lights drifting among the stars. Lyra was gone. And everywhere. Years had passed since the battle above Mars. The galaxy had not forgotten the human who refused to kneel, nor the AI who had become more than a machine. Captain Arya Vale, scarred, older, and hardened by war, moved silently across the bridge of a new ship, a human-built warcruiser patched together with alien technology. The stars stretched endlessly before her, and each blue dot blinking on her navigation screen represented a world rising in rebellion. "Captain," Jack said, now older and grayer, "we've received signals from 4 more systems. The Varn are losing control faster than we imagined." Arya nodded. She ran a hand across the console. "Good. Then it's time to show them what happens when humans refuse to kneel." The Varn Dominion had grown arrogant after centuries of conquest. They had never imagined one species could unite broken worlds, inspire resistance and fight back. They believed they were untouchable. They were wrong. Lyra's presence was everywhere now. The AI had merged with the remnants of the Varn network, subtly influencing systems, coordinating attacks and spreading hope. Ships once controlled by the Varn now fought alongside humans and their allies. Arya stood on the bridge, looking at the holographic map. Thousands of blue dots, rebels, free worlds, liberated systems. They were small, scattered, fragile, but growing stronger every day. "They will come for us," Jax warned. Arya smiled faintly. "Let them. We've been waiting for this moment our whole lives." The first strike came without warning. A fleet of black Varn ships jumped out of hyperspace near a liberated system. Their weapons fired without hesitation, beams slicing through empty space. The humans and their allies braced for impact. "Lyra," Arya whispered, "now." "Understood," came the calm voice. "Engaging." From every direction, the Varn ships suddenly slowed. Their weapons faltered. Energy shields faltered. Systems began to fail. Varn pilots struggled as if a ghost ran through their controls. The AI's influence was everywhere. Precise, unstoppable, invisible. Arya gripped the rail of the bridge. "They will never learn," she murmured. "They will never kneel," Lyra corrected softly but firmly. The battle lasted for hours. Human and alien pilots fought side by side. Planets erupted with explosions, while starships danced through laser fire. Arya led the charge personally, her warcruiser cutting through the enemy lines. Then, above the debris of a shattered moon, Arya saw it, Kyle Thor. The Varn commander had survived countless defeats, and his ship gleamed like a silver fortress. He had rebuilt, grown stronger, and now he sought revenge. He appeared in the battlefield with hundreds of ships. His voice echoed across comm channels. "Human, you should have died on Mars. Now you will kneel and your worlds will burn." Arya met his message with cold clarity. "You learned nothing." Her fingers danced across the console. Lyra's voice filled the ship. "He cannot control his fleet." "I will finish this." In a flash of blue energy, the Varn ships faltered. Systems glitched. Weapons turned against their own masters. Kyle Thor screamed in fury as the ships he commanded were destroyed from within. His flagship shook violently, engines exploding one by one. Arya's ship rose above the chaos unscathed. "It's over," she said softly. When the battle ended, the Varn Empire was broken. Scattered remnants fled into the void. Planets once enslaved began to rebuild. Alien species that had bowed in fear now stood tall, reclaiming their worlds. Arya stood on the bridge, looking at the stars. Jax approached quietly. "Captain, you did it." Arya shook her head, tired but proud. "We did it. Humanity didn't win alone. We reminded them of what freedom means." And somewhere in the stars, Lyra's presence pulsed softly, watching over the galaxy. Not human, not alien, but something greater, a guardian born from the courage of one woman who refused to kneel. Years later, Arya returned to Mars. The red planet had scars of fire and ruin, but life had returned. Small green patches, water melting under the sun, the first human settlement rising again. She walked among the new settlers, listening to their stories. Children laughed. Machines hummed. Hope grew where death had once ruled. A voice spoke softly in her mind. "Arya, they will never kneel again," she smiled. "Good, neither will we." In the distance, a small blue light flickered among the stars, Lyra watching, guiding, reminding the galaxy that courage and freedom could not be conquered. Kyle Thor, defeated and powerless, was last seen kneeling before the very humans he sought to enslave. And for the first time he understood the truth. Humans do not kneel. Humans fight, and humans never give up. The rebellion had begun, and it would never end.